Hey, Ron.
Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
All right, how you doing?
Good.
All right, so we are meeting with our May the 18th City Council Special Meeting Workshop. There are 4 items on the agenda. 2 of them need action, and 2 of them are just information and discussion. The first one is an update on Montcross Area Chamber of Commerce and their office situation, physical location situation. And we've got the Chamber Board Chair Heath Jenkins and Chamber President Ted Hall joining us, and they will give us an update. Then we have 2 items that you need, like for you to take action on. One is a downtown Alfresco dining program, and Phil Bogan is on the conference. That item is to consider approval of a sidewalk construction reimbursement agreement, and Shelley DeHart is with us for that. And then we've got the budget workshop number 2. So we'll lead that discussion.
There's Martha.
So, I didn't catch all that, Martha. Seth, can you fix that? All right. So with that, if everybody can mute themselves, and then I'll turn it over to Heath Jenkins to lead our discussion about the Montcross Area Chamber of Commerce, and Heath and Ted can give you some information. This is a follow-up to some of the email information I've been given to you. So I'll turn it over to Heath.
David, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to join you with your meeting this evening. Mayor Martin and the council appreciate the opportunity to be here to answer any questions that you may have. Also want to hope everyone and their family safe. Everyone's doing well through this unusual time. This year's chairmanship of the Chamber of Commerce has certainly come with some challenges, and we're here to talk about one of the many that we've faced since December. But I'm going to turn it over to our president, Ted Hall, who is a advocate for small businesses and businesses alike in Gaston County, and ask him to give you a synopsis of kind of what's been going on with our situation with our current location and how this ties in. So, Ted, if you can take it from there. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Heath, and thank you, Mayor Martin and members of the City Council for allowing us to come and present to you this afternoon. And thank you even more so for your willingness to consider the issue that we're talking about today, which is the possibility of allowing the Montcross Area Chamber of Commerce to utilize office space in the City Hall building. Just a couple of words here about the background. I know some of you have been here the whole time that I've been involved with the Chamber, which is 15 years, back to 2005. And others of you may not know the history. So let me just tell you that when I started with the Chamber, we had 84 members, and we were located in the former Bank of Belmont building, which is now the 32 North Main building, the 3-story bank building downtown. We occupied street-level space in that building, which you may be more familiar with now is the home of Belmont Realty. It was a 1-room office. We paid, I think my recollection is we paid $150 a month for rent on that space. One room, no restroom upstairs. But we loved it there, and we loved it during that time. Teresa joined our staff 2 years later in 2007, by which time we had already started to grow rather rapidly. And let's see, 2011, I guess, is when we really needed more space because the chamber had grown by that time to over 300 members, as I recall. About that time, we learned, it's a surprise to us, that the Stowe building was then owned by a West Coast company uh, that was considering the possibility of starting to lease office space in the building. We learned that when they came to visit us down in the chamber office to tell us about that possibility. That time, Harding Stowe and a few of his Bricks Pizza staff members were the only occupants of the building. We needed more space, and they offered us 3 offices, cubicle, sort of reception area, workspace, and access to what was a tremendous number of restrooms at that time for us, 8 restrooms in that 16,000 square foot building, and access to conference offices, conference room, that sort of thing. So that was a wonderful opportunity for us, even though it was a lot more rent than we were accustomed to paying, and at that time we weren't even sure that we could do it. We had to have that space in order to grow the chamber. And they made us a really good deal, though, on the rent, because I think they knew that they wanted the chamber in that space because of exactly what did happen. They knew we would attract other people to come and occupy space in the building, which we did almost immediately. And it wasn't long until the building was filled primarily with people that Teresa and I had shown the space to and connected them to our West Coast owners. It really became sort of the de facto property managers for the building, because anybody looking for office space in the area came to see the chamber, and the first office space we had to show them was right there in the Stowe building. So we were responsible for a lot of new businesses locating in downtown Belmont just because of the space available in that building. Now, maybe 4 years ago, when the building was sold again, and this time was sold to local owners. But really, that didn't make a lot of change for us in terms of our representation of the building. The local owners did not have a presence in the building, but the chamber did. And we continued to help them market the building and show the building and actually take care of problems that developed with the building during this past four years or so. The building went on the market again sometime in the second half, I think, of last year, certainly sometime during 2019. And immediately when I realized the building had been posted for sale, I became concerned and made an appointment to go talk to Adrian, because I was concerned that if the building sold, we might not be able to stay there. And by this time, as everybody knows, Belmont being a really hot market, the lease rates in downtown Belmont have gone up a whole lot since we were paying $150 for a storefront office on Main Street. And I was very, very concerned that either somebody would buy the building and convert it to their own purposes, which would put out all the tenants, or that the building would be upfit to a point and the lease rates would go to a point that we wouldn't be able to afford it. I was really, really happy and relieved when I got a positive response from Adrian about his desire to keep the chamber in Belmont. We are the Belmont Chamber of Commerce since we became a chamber in 1960 after becoming the Belmont Merchants Association in 1937. I know we operate now under a DBA called the Montcross Area Chamber because our membership has grown so widely. But by far, the largest segment of our members are still in the 28012 area code and still call Belmont home. And we don't ever anticipate, certainly don't want to anticipate a time when the chamber offices are not in downtown Belmont. But really got concerned about what could happen. And to catch you up on what little we know about what's happening, we don't really have any concrete information other than what I've been able to glean. The building, we do know, is under contract, and we believe the due diligence period has ended and they're moving on towards setting a closing date. We don't know exactly when that's going to be, but as you know, Mr. Mayor, I'm an old newspaper man, and I still have that tendency to ask questions and then close my mouth and listen. And over the past few months, we've had dozens of contractors, interior decorators, electricians, floor covering people, painters, every possible kind of subcontractor that you can imagine has been coming through the building. Each one of them drops a little bit of information. So I'm really pleased to tell you that the building that we have come to know and love as the Stowe Building, which is iconic to downtown Belmont back to 1927, appears to be going to be in really good hands. We don't know who the new owners are. We don't know exactly what the closing date is going to be, but we picked up enough clues to know that the building is going to undergo substantial renovation and updates. And in my mind, they're going to turn it into a premier office location in downtown Belmont. And I'm really happy about that because I love the building. It concerns me a lot because I know what that's going to mean when we start to hear about what our rent is going to become. And I'm really apprehensive that we need to be making plans quickly because all indications are that by the end of June, early July, we're going to need to find another home or stay where we are, depending on what the proposal will be when it comes from the new owners. Right now, we don't have a date. I anticipate that any minute now, any day now, we're going to get a notice that we either need to sign a new lease or we need to vacate within a time period of about the end of June. So that's why it became very important that we began to have this conversation at another level. The one that Adrian and I had over the past few months, very casually, it became necessary for us to start to talk very seriously about where could we go. And believe me, I've looked around all over town, and I don't really find another location that I think would be nearly as attractive and nearly as beneficial to the chamber, and I believe also to the city, than if we could work out a way to partner with the city on the space in the present City Hall building after most of the offices there are relocated to your new location down on Catawba Street. The scary thing about all this is also the unknown that cropped up in March that really complicates our scenario greatly in terms of what is happening right now and what's going to be happening in the near-term future because of the pandemic. We know the results and the outcome are not going to be good. We don't know exactly how bad they're going to be, but I've got a feeling it's going to be pretty serious, and we're going to need to be looking at ways to reduce expenses, which we already are and have, rather than taking on significant new expenses in terms of what could be the lease rates that we might be required to pay to stay in the Stowe building. So that pretty much sums up the recap that I wanted to make and sort of brings you up to date on where we are. We have always been a small nonprofit because our mission is to serve small businesses. We kept our rates low intentionally so that small businesses could afford to be a member of the chamber. And we don't want to change that. We'd like to continue to be who we are and to serve those kinds of businesses. In addition, we'll serve the large ones also, but recognizing that it's the small businesses that need us much more so than the large hospital groups and large manufacturing operations that they have a lot more assets and resources that can provide more for themselves. And we want to be the Chamber of Commerce for small business. So that's the reason that we feel like we need to give all of our attention right now to getting our expenses in order and trying to find a location that over the next many years, we could serve the city of Belmont as we have always served, and work in partnership with the Downtown Development Authority and with Phil and his team as we've always done. We've always been in downtown Belmont, and I've always been a resident of Belmont, and we love the community here. And feel like this is where the chamber needs to be. So we feel like working from City Hall in collaboration, perhaps with Phil and other city staff members, that we can do an even better job for the city of Belmont, as we're also representing all of the communities of the Montcross area, and now more than 540 businesses and nonprofit organizations throughout the whole, all of Gaston County, and a pretty large segment now of Mecklenburg County, where we have members. So I think that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to report. If I've left something out, I'll be glad to respond to questions. And Heath, if you would like to add something to what I said, please do so also.
I don't have anything to add at this time unless there's any questions, follow up.
So what I'd like to get just from the council is a nod that you're okay with me and I guess Parks working on an agreement with the chamber for a lease and office space, and sort of a service agreement of what the chamber could do to further help us downtown and Belmont in general, or not. So, we don't need to work. I don't need a vote or anything. Just kind of a thumbs up. Yep, keep talking about it, bring it back to us, or thumbs down. We don't need to explore this any further.
Adrian, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
A while back, and I can't exactly nail down the time frame, we were talking, or it was before council, that when the city moved into the new property down by the river, that the property you're in now, City Hall, was going to undergo some renovations to upgrade the electrical, the plumbing, and the technology, because it was kind of a patchwork. I mean, how does that affect that process or that timeline if we go ahead and lease it as is and don't get the chance to make those renovations?
So I have explained that upgrade that we need to make to the building with Ted and Heath and their team. And based on the tightness of next year's budget, I'm going to recommend we push the upgrades to the City Hall building off at least a fiscal year into I guess it'd be the 21-22 year. So that would give them a year in our City Hall building. And then depending on the extent of the renovations, we would just work around that. We'd also have the planning building in the back that would be a potential for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And this is, I mean, I imagine it's looking more like a certainty, but this will obviously be contingent on the a Stowe building space no longer being available or feasible in terms of rent.
Yes, I mean, I don't want to speak for the chamber, but we would have, once we move into the other building, we'll have the physical space available for the chamber if they need that as a backup if for some reason they can't come to terms with the new owners of the building.
Okay.
All right. So when you're putting together your lease, are you going to do a sampling of office space within Belmont and try to come at an average rental per square foot? I mean, how are you going to approach the fees?
Yes, I mean, all that will be to be determined, but I want to get a check-in with you first to see if you want us to spend the time to do that, and we'll certainly, figure out what fair market for an office space and a City Hall type building would be. And we'll see what the chamber can afford. And if the chamber, if it needs to be, a little bit less cash than market rate, but make up for it with some services provided to the city, then that may be something we want to look at.
Ted, are you looking at this as kind of an interim rental or long-term?
Councilman Turner, I would hope that this would be a long-term situation. Because I'm not sure that, that as lease rates in downtown Belmont continue to go up, and if this new building comes in and brings the kind of tenants that I think it's got the potential to bring to downtown, it's going to help continue to elevate fair market lease rates in Belmont. I think it's going to take a collaborative effort between the city and the chamber to be able to compete with that and make it possible for the chamber to continue to have office spaces where we can be the most beneficial to the city of Belmont.
What do you say, Adrian? I mean, I don't have an issue with it. I'd like to see whatever package you bring forward. You know, that's just my perspective on for anyone else, of course.
Well, would it have to be approved by us at the end of the day?
Yeah, so I would bring it back to you. I just,
Okay.
but before we spend time and you know, there is a sense of urgency on the chamber's part. You know, we want to work out something here in the next several weeks to bring back to you for approval. I don't want to, you know, go down this road and then the council say, no, we have no interest in that, and you should have never brought it to us. I just want to check in with you now and get authorization to proceed, and then we'll bring you back the document to review and approve, or consider approval. So does it?
Ryan, you're on mute.
It's I'm not hearing any opposition to us having these discussions
Yeah,
with the chamber and bring you back.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I don't have any opposition. Just I think we got to figure out if you want to do like a month or a long-term deal. We either have to be really transparent, really formal about the process, or we just need to be real low-key about it. But I don't think being in the middle is going to be good. So either formalize it and make it strict, or just keep it real low-key, gentleman's type agreement stuff. One way or the other. I'm good with that. I think we do like stuff with them with the Christmas parade and stuff. So I guess there's been some opportunity to kind of button up all that. Right?
Right.
Okay. Nope, sounds good.
Okay.
We want
Okay.
to stay in town, that's for sure.
All right. Well, I will take that as consensus to proceed with working with the chamber.
Adrian, thank you. Mayor, city council members, we appreciate your time this evening, and we appreciate and look forward to a partnership with the city. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Heath. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We certainly do appreciate that and look forward to hearing something from you as soon as possible, because we really feel the clock ticking and it's going to be, the way time's passing, it's going to be the end of June before we know it.
Yes. All right. So Ted and Heath, you're welcome to leave our meeting.
I will do that, Adrian, and get back in and listen to the audio, because I do want to hear about the Alfresco discussion.
All right. Well, that's a great segue. So thank you. So the next item on the agenda is to consider approval of downtown Alfresco dining program. This is something that our Main Street program has looked into. And as we may be moving into phase 2 of the stay-at-home restrictions, Phil Bogan asked me about the potential of having an Alfresco dining program on Main Street. So Phil and Cassidy worked on this program that's in your packet. Now we'll turn it over to Phil. So Phil, if you'll unmute yourself and explain what you are proposing.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. Mayor, City Council, it's been a trying few months for our downtown businesses, as you are aware, and they have been very appreciative of each of you and the support that you've given in the opportunity of providing the loan program for them. And so, as you know, phase 1 started 2 weeks back, approximately, and we had a ribbon cutting. Our downtown retail businesses have done pretty well, and they're following the guidelines as much as they can. And so they are appreciative of all the support that we're giving them. Over the last several weeks, of course, I've been in constant communication with our restaurants who are struggling um, in the world of unknowns. Um, and a couple of those, for example, over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about what phase two is going to look like when we reopen. We are talking about and looking at um, their outdoor areas, parking lots, sidewalks. Then one of the issues with that is their ABC permit does not allow them to serve alcohol if they were to set up, for example, if Nellie's were to set up a tent in their parking lot, in the NSK parking lot, and serve food to customers out there, they would have to get a temporary premise extension permit to be able to serve alcohol in the parking lot. Well, the problem with that is that permit is only good for one day, and our restaurants and our businesses are limited to the number that they can apply to or apply for each year, which is it was either 10 or 12. I kept getting a misunderstanding on what that exact number was. So it's really not feasible for them to constantly reapply for premise extension. And so I communicated with the ABC Commission to try to get an understanding of that permit. They told me 2 weeks ago that the commission is working with senators and the governor to try to work on um, a way to maybe loosen up the restrictions on how many or the length of that permit, because they see the value and the need for restaurants to be able to obtain that permit to be able to increase their capacity to be able to serve more people when phase two opens up. But until that time, we still have not heard anything about that permit. And so we're kind of in a wait and see pattern. So our restaurants really don't know what to do as far as extend into their parking lot or not, because they don't know if they can actually serve alcohol. And so there's a big gray area there. So in my communications with them, I asked them um, as if we worked on with the city council on blocking off some of Main Street or portions of Main Street to allow outdoor dining, would that benefit them? And of course, they all repeatedly said yes, because what we're hearing is the capacity is going to be anywhere from 25 to 50% on what they can serve inside their building. Um, every single restaurant owner has told me that even serving at 50% capacity inside their restaurant, that they would not make it. They would be losing money. So why even bother opening up? They're also struggling with getting staff back. Currently, the wait staff and the bartenders are making more on unemployment than they were making working in the restaurants downtown. So there's just a plethora of issues that our restaurants are dealing with, and it's all a world of unknown. And so they're excited about the opportunity of some type of alfresco dining that we have proposed, because what this will do will increase the number of tables outside, making up that percentage difference that they're missing out on inside of their restaurants. And I feel like a lot of people are going to be hesitant about going inside a restaurant and sitting down and eating, where they're going to be more inclined to sit outside in the open air to sit down and eat. So the proposal is to start off, um, and this is basically a trial run, um, to see how it operates. We would look at blocking off North Main Street around Nellie's, and then blocking off south of there in front of the station, so that traffic could still flow around Catawba, Glenway Street, and into the parking lots behind City Hall for the parking. Traffic could even cross over the railroad tracks at South Main Street, turn left onto Airline. So we would block off in front of the Everyday Market down to Myrtle and McLean, so that then tables and chairs could be put out in front of the Everyday Market, Sammy's, and Old Stone. Station, okay.
I think we lost Phil.
I think we lost you, Phil.
If we've lost Phil, then I will try to go over what he was proposing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So essentially, we would close Main Street at City Hall in front of Nellie's down to the station, so that vehicle traffic could not go on that block of Main Street, but instead could go around Catawba Street to Glenway, as you see on the map here. And then they could turn onto Main Street and turn back onto Airline Street at Everyday Market. If traffic needs to flow, then they could exit via Hawthorne Street. We would also close South Main Street between Airline and Myrtle Street here in front of the Everyday Market and Old Stone and Sammy's. And we would allow for, we would have some tables that we would put out on the street, keeping social distancing, of course, and proper sanitation. Allow the public to come get takeout from our downtown restaurants, and then eat it on Main Street. So basically having a citywide picnic, if you will, on Main Street. We would allow for, under what we're requesting, the possession and consumption of alcoholic beverages. So if you went to a station, for example, for tacos and beer, you could get a taco and a beer from the station, carry it onto Main Street, and then eat your taco and drink your beer on Main Street. Same thing, getting a steak and a glass of wine at Old Stone. Take it out and enjoy your dinner on Main Street. So this is, as Phil said, this is intended to provide additional seating capacity for our restaurants.
Question.
So Phil, we've lost you for the last several minutes. I just told him kind of the layout of how we're going to work this, of closing the street and allowing people to get food and drink and bring it out onto Main Street to drink, to eat and drink their dinner. Are you back, Phil?
I'm catching every word of you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hey, I have a question, Adrian. It's Ryan. Is this an event or an ongoing thing?
So we would propose this during the restrictions. So this would be Friday evening, Saturday evening, starting this weekend and going through June. And hopefully by the end of June, we're back to normal, or whatever that's going to look like. But so this would be Friday evenings and Saturday evenings for the next month and a half.
Is this going to go into effect regardless of whether we go into phase 2 on Friday or not?
Yes. So phase 2 would allow for the restaurants to open for limited indoor dining. But from what we understand, it's really not cost effective for them to open at 50% capacity, because they'll have 100% of their costs, but only 50% revenue coming in. So we're basically providing a larger dining area for them. And so this is something that we felt like we needed to offer to try and see. And if nobody's interested, then we don't. I mean, we do it the first weekend, and if nobody shows up, then we don't do it again. Or if the restaurants determine that it's not worth doing, then we don't need to do it anymore. But we feel like there's enough demand for people coming out, being careful, but being around each other. We haven't seen each other in several weeks, and enjoying some of our restaurants, and then hopefully sticking around to go shopping in stores.
Adrian, let me ask you, I'm assuming the restaurants will be putting the table chairs out and bringing them in. But in between customers, are they gonna have people out there to sanitize them or wipe them down?
Phil, do you want to answer that? That you've had conversations with the restaurant owners?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so that's where the restaurants would also, restaurants would have to provide a staff to help sanitize, wipe down the tables and chairs in between customers.
Okay.
But they're not going to be wait staff like waiting on a section of tables. Is that correct?
Say again, Jim. I think my internet here is going in and out.
Yes. These staff wouldn't be like wait staff, like taking orders out to the tables, would they? They'd just be wiping down tables after people are finished.
Uh, Correct. So basically, it would be still a to-go environment where you purchase food to go from the restaurants, and then you come, sit down, eat, and leave. And then that staff would wipe down the tables and chairs, not physically wait as serve the customer sitting down.
I'm just, are we really
Now,
though
again,
increasing?
it could evolve.
Can't hear you, Phil.
Can't hear you.
I want to try to log in. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Jim, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Jim, hello?
Hello?
Okay. Okay.
hear you,
I'm
Phil.
open to either way, and I think
Mhm.
you can't hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, you can.
Yes.
And I am open to either way. I would want to have a conversation with the restaurants to see what actually would work best for them. All of this work to me is to support our restaurants, and whatever style of serving is better for them. I value the feedback from John Bailey and from Kevin Jonas to get an understanding of um, what style of service is better for them. If they're willing to put out their tables and chairs and have staff come out and wait, that's fine. Again, I don't have all the answers for, so I would want to rely on some feedback from them.
Because my question
But
is,
just
if
providing
we're
this opportunity is,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
okay,
you,
Jim.
Jim. What's your question?
I don't hear.
Okay. Well, my question is, are we really increasing seating capacity though? It sounds like if they're still just doing takeout and you can go eat it on the picnic tables, are we really changing anything? Because we're not changing anything about the way the restaurant operates. We're just changing what people are doing with the food after they get it. Now, if the restaurants think that that's going to be something that is still more beneficial to them, that's fine. But to me, I'm not sure if they're still just doing takeout. All it's changing is what people are doing with the takeout after they get it. It's not how is that going to increase the restaurant's business? I don't know.
And I would kind of be
Well,
fine with letting the businesses make that call themselves. You know, if one of them wants to do takeout, but another one doesn't want to bother with, the issues with having a wait staff, I'd kind of be fine with giving them that flexibility.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's certainly if the businesses think this is beneficial, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And Jim, I think one of the issues was that, you know, it costs a certain amount of money for the restaurants to open, you know, and they're going to have just limited seating. So it may not make enough money to have the dining room open. So what this would do would be an opportunity to allow people to come together in a safe manner and get takeout and eat it right away instead of having it delivered or taken back to your house. Because right now, under the rules, it's takeout or delivery only. There's no outdoor seating allowed. So this would basically turn Main Street into the outdoor seating area. It also it would allow the restaurants to make a little bit extra money by selling beer and wine to go, which right now they cannot do, other than you can take out cans and take them home. This would allow them to sell beer and wine with their dinner, which would increase their revenue. So hopefully, make up a little bit of what they have lost. So, we think it's worth trying, and we'll have another city council meeting on June 1st. So if you approve this tonight, we'll have 2 weekends that we can try it and see how it goes. And if it's a dud, then we don't have to do it anymore, or if we need to expand it, we can bring that to you on June 1st.
Hey, Adrian. So I love the idea. I think it'll be very popular. I don't understand the layout here. It doesn't make sense to me why you would, why we're focusing it all on Main Street. Like for me, I think it makes more sense for Doffer, String Bean, and the Lodge. Why not close down that side street beside SunTrust Bank? And then, I mean, Glenway Pub has that huge parking lot behind them. Old Stone has a huge parking lot behind them. To me, it seems like we're closing down Main Street when maybe there'd be a more practical way to do this, and still create some separation between the restaurants. Because to me, it sounds like we're just trying to expand the patio capacity of each individual restaurant. And what we're doing here is we're concentrating everybody on the Main Street area, which maybe that's what we're trying to accomplish, but the flow just doesn't make sense to me. Even like Nellie's and then what, Jekyll and Hyde, are they going to walk out and try and serve people on Main Street? That just doesn't seem practical.
No, they're going to get their food and drink and be sitting out there. To me, this is like a big garden party, and they're getting to serve alcohol at the same time. A lot of people want to get out. They'll go into the coffee shop, and they'll sit outside across at the park. So this just gives you the opportunity to do that without traffic flow on Main Street. So I think it sounds like a good idea, at least to try.
No, I like the idea. Just the layout doesn't seem real practical to me.
And so, Ryan, when we were talking about this on Friday, we were thinking, well, let's maybe
Ryan, and that.
Go ahead, Phil.
And Ryan, that also gets into the permit. So as it stands now, a restaurant, even Stream Bean, unless they have the right type of permit, can't serve alcohol in their parking lot. But if the city were to designate an area, bring their food and their beer out into this designated.
And just logistically, Ryan, we at first thought about, well, let's shut down every street that's in front of a restaurant. But then it's just a big footprint, and I don't know that we have enough barricades, and it's more work on the police department to kind of patrol it. So we thought we would just at least start out with the Main Street, so you can get a Jekyll and Hyde, order your dinner there, and then carry it. You have to walk over to Main Street. So same thing with Glenway or the Bottle Tree or the Lodge or String Bean or Doffers. Just order there, and just you have to walk a block to eat it on Main Street.
So talk to me about the alcohol then. So if I get a gin and tonic at Jekyll and Hyde, am I getting that in a styrofoam cup and then I'm walking out to the picnic area?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're envisioning?
Yes, so it would have to be somehow it would have to be sealed, whether that's tape or with an unopened straw or something like that. And then you bring it into the red area on this map on Main Street to drink it.
I mean, are we concerned about somebody maybe getting a gin and tonic at Bottle Tree in a styrofoam cup and then not going to the picnic area?
That certainly is a possibility. So, I mean, if and the Bottle Tree, for example, has a backyard, so they may not even need this.
Sure.
But that we're gonna provide an opportunity for people to follow the rules, and if we see somebody just walking around Kenwood Street with what appears to be a gin and tonic, then we encourage them to either go back to where they bought it or to go to the dining area on Main Street.
Yeah, Ryan, we don't want to get you for an open container situation, okay?
I'm just trying to envision, just trying to picture this in my mind, how this works. Because, I mean, it sounds like we could just open up all the streets to open containers. And,
Well, I think you're looking at Glenway that already has outdoor dining and String Bean and those kind of places. So this is just giving the Main Street part that opportunity as well, because they have not had that up to this point.
yeah.
I would say let's at least try this, and then if we want to expand it, we can. If it's more popular than what we're anticipating. One thing I do want to mention is that we are only allowing the consumption of alcohol on the street and not in Stowe Park. So to the extent that there will be like some picnic area in Stowe Park by the Fighting Yank, outside of the construction zone that people wanted to eat but they didn't want to be around alcohol, they could do that. So that would be sort of the alcohol-free area.
Okay, well, we have signage to
Is that the police?
Yeah, so we'll have signage for that.
Are you guys going to have tents up, or are they just going to be tables sitting under the sun?
We are not going to provide tables because we just don't have. That's an expense that we're not going to incur. I'm sure if a restaurant wanted to have some tables, have a tent on top of a table, they could certainly do that.
Yeah.
We'll provide the
Where's it
tables.
come from?
So we have a certain number of tables. We don't have enough for all of this, so we'll have a certain number of tables that we'll use, and then ask the restaurants to supplement that.
So you have Creative Solutions up the street now. That would give them some business because they have basically none now. If they can rent some tables and
Right.
chairs, the restaurants on Friday and Saturday night, I'm sure they will be happy.
With Brad and Shannon about this.
I bet. Yeah.
I think we should move forward. If it can look somewhat nice and not just like a complete mess, that would be my preference. If we can kind of nudge them into doing the right thing, and I mean, you don't want a bunch of junk tables sitting on Main Street in Belmont. So,
Phil and I had that conversation this afternoon.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'm good with it. I think
You
Make
definitely
Who's responsible for
want it to look
assembly and
good, not put
disassembling?
together.
I just don't want it to make it look like Belmont.
who's responsible for setting up
And I think
down? Sorry.
The restaurants would be.
So our staff will set the area up with the barricades to make it safe, and then our public works staff would help with our part of it, our tables and chairs, but the restaurants will be responsible for their portion of it. It would be a shared kind of event.
And in
if
the
you
event
will.
of inclement weather, who makes the call about whether we take it all down or?
Phil Bogan.
So Phil
Phil
gets to be
does.
the bad
I'm
guy.
back.
Yeah.
Weather line, I can call the weather line.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I have one question, probably more for the lawyers. Back to our example with the gin and tonic. Let's say Mr. Customer goes to a restaurant, goes out to our picnic area and slips and falls on the curb. Are we in any way liable for like injuries or slips and falls that occur in Main Street from the customers of these businesses?
I'll weigh in on that. it's hard to tell. If somebody gets hurt, we're always going to be sued. We got insurance to cover it if we do. And I don't know how to answer that. It'd be a case by case basis and no blanket answer for that. But my response would be, if there's an injury, would be covered by insurance.
Is no more or less than if they slipped on Main Street at afternoon. If the issue's with the curb, then we're going to be liable, regardless. So otherwise I agree with Parks.
Yeah, so we have an umbrella policy for ourselves as well, just for that. And so you're probably looking at, if we're really doing this, the restaurants are responsible, the city's responsible. So if somebody failed, there's going to be something for everybody as a piece of this, unfortunately. But I think it's still worth a try because of all it can do for the businesses.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I like this idea.
Yeah.
The insurance person in me is very paranoid. So
We are too.
He also has
It's a good trait to have.
We have people have a licensed caterer. We have people make sure they have that, but still, it's still a piece of it's going to be ours if something happens in our spot. So unfortunately, that's what the city's looking at as well.
Obviously, I mean, it sounds like everyone, is on board with the concept. Obviously, it sounds like a few things, the details need to be fleshed out, but I think as a general concept, everyone seems to be supportive of it.
I think you'd make a lot of people in the town happy because there are a lot of unhappy people. And so if this can make it work and look nice, I think it certainly would be good. I said the depression situation is an issue, and this to me would help alleviate that part as well. So we'll see.
Oh, actually, I have one more question. So for the staff time and other costs that we're incurring for this, would any portion of those potentially be reimbursable from that $2 or $3 million that the state just gave the county for COVID-related expenses and things of that nature?
I can certainly ask. But I have already inquired with the county manager about making sure that the county shares some of that state money with the municipalities who are having to expend our own money for COVID-related issues.
Right.
I don't know if this would cover that or not, but I'll certainly bring that up with it.
Okay.
But it's discretionary in the county, isn't it? Whether they do that or not.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And the county manager has reached out to the other city managers about this, so we are working on that.
Adrian, who makes that decision? The county commissioners, or who would do that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. It's a scary thought.
Adrian, I don't have any issues with this. I think it's worth a try. I think if it's done right, it could be a really neat event. I mean, we will definitely go out and give it a try when it comes up. I mean, the only thing that I would say, I mean, from my perspective, I'm envisioning people coming out, eating. I don't know if they're going to hang out. I guess the object of the restaurants is to try to turn those tables as quickly as possible. I'm going to suggest, for me, my perspective, I wouldn't put a little background music while I'm eating. But then again, that might entice people to sit around and hang around longer. And I think the goal is probably to turn those tables and generate, within reason, as much revenue as possible. But I mean, I think it's definitely worth a shot.
Okay. Thank you.
Can we schedule Phil to provide an update at the June 1st council meeting? Because then we'll have had 2 weekends of dealing with this, and we can see where we want to go in terms of whether we need to tweak it or whatever.
Certainly. Then it sounds like there's consensus to proceed with this.
Yeah, I'll
So
be
do we
glad
need
to
a
provide.
formal vote on this, Adrian, or not?
Yes, we do.
And
has to be a
there
roll
has
call.
Yes, there's been a change in the statute now that formalizes the process for these remote meetings during an emergency. And so I'd ask the Mayor Pro Tem to do a roll call vote of everybody, which is part of the new statute. So you can't just say aye or raise your hand. So Jim, if you'll do a roll call vote, and this is for the ordinance that is.
Well,
found
we
in
need a
the-
motion. I would think we need.
Well, yes, you need a motion and a second, and then the roll call vote. This is for the ordinance that is found in page 6 of your packet.
All right, so do you want this for a 2-week trial period, or do you want to go ahead and propose it to the end of June, so, and then have an update? Which way do you want to do that part?
The ordinance as it is, and then we'll just, react
Just tweak it. Mhm.
based on any updates or concerns that might transpire. But I don't know what anyone else thinks.
That's fine.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance for the downtown Alfresco dining proposal.
I'll second it.
Made the motion, Ryan is seconded. So we will now have a roll call vote. Councilman Ryan Schrift,
Yes.
Councilman Richard Turner,
Yes.
Councilman Jim Heffron votes yes. Councilwoman Martha
Yes.
Stowe, Councilman Mark Seelinger.
Yes.
Yes. All right, that's 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil, for your work on that.
I'll be there on Friday, weather permitting.
Well, that one will have soggy French fries, so that'll be good.
Yes. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is also for consideration, and it's for approval of a sidewalk construction reimbursement agreement. And I will, for the sidewalk that would connect South Pointe High School to South Pointe Commons and on to South Pointe Middle School, Belmont Middle School. So I will turn it over to Shelley DeHart to provide this presentation.
Thank you, Adrian. As you indicated, earlier this year, the council approved a design services contract with the Isaacs Group for design of a city sidewalk project consisting of an 8-foot wide sidewalk segment that would connect South Pointe High School to South Pointe Commons. Now, South Pointe Commons is a commercial center currently under development located at the corner of McKee Farms Road and South Pointe Road. So construction of this sidewalk segment would allow pedestrians to walk from the new middle school to the high school safely. So we're seeking approval of the reimbursement agreement in the packet with South Pointe Village LLC in the amount of $54,104. Now, this amount is a low bid from the contractor, which is Keach Construction. This construction company is also doing all the work on the adjacent parcel, which is South Pointe Commons. So we were able to save quite a bit with working through a reimbursement contract. So that concludes my presentation.
Any questions?
No,
If there's no questions, Adrian, should we, well, I don't know whether Adrian's still here, but I would assume we do a motion and then another roll call vote for this one.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
And oh, the motion is
Go ahead and approve the sidewalk project at 910 South Pointe Road.
okay. We have that motion to improve the reimbursement agreement for the sidewalk project made by Richard, seconded by Martha. We'll do a roll call. Councilman Ryan Schrift. Is Ryan there?
Yay.
Yay. Okay. Hold on. I'm Councilman Richard Turner.
Yes.
Councilman Jim Heffron votes yes. Councilwoman Martha Stowe.
Yes.
Councilman Mark Seelinger.
Yes.
All right, 5-0 in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So the next item on the workshop agenda is the budget workshop number 2. So we had a budget workshop on April 20th. Got some feedback from you, and this one is very similar. I included slides in your packet. I'm not going to go over all of these because it would just be redundant from what you had on April 20th, but I do want to just kind of give you a little bit more information about where we are with the budget. Here's your themes, the big goal themes from the retreat this year. Again, the recap from our current fiscal year, which runs through June 30th. Kept the tax rate the same, reduced the solid waste fee, but increased the stormwater fee in an offsetting amount of $2. Continued implementation of the capital program. We've got a debt service level of about 11%, which is just below the 12% target we need to stay under. We have added a few staff positions. And then here's where I've got a little bit slight update from last month. I gave you in my email report to you last Friday, I gave you our financial statements through the end of March. Michelle gets revenue from the county and the state at various times, so it comes in slowly. But we have collected 98% of our estimated property tax revenue in the current year. Our sales tax continues to come in stronger than what we budgeted. And so I believe at last month's meeting, I reported that we had collected about 1.9 million. That's now up to 2.2 million. And so we would have estimated that at the end of the year at almost $3 million if the rest of the spring was like it was in the fall and over the winter. But obviously that has changed with COVID. But the new data point that we have is we received our sales tax revenue from sales that were made in March that posted this last week to our account. That was $223,718. So that's better than what I anticipated. So obviously the COVID related issues began approximately middle of March. So you had about 2 good weeks of March that was just normal. And then you probably had a week of panic buying. And so we'll see what happens in April. But this, of course, this is when everybody bought all the toilet paper and potted meat and everything else that you need to survive COVID. And so if we were to average out, so we've collected 2.2 million, and I should say through March's revenues. So we anticipate that we'll collect a little over $2.6 million in sales tax this year. And again, we budgeted 2.3, so we will end the year to the good on sales tax. And Michelle has been working on budget amendment. For those of you that have been on council for a while, you know we periodically amend the budget throughout the year. We haven't had to do that this year, and so we're just going to do one big budget amendment at your June workshop. But Michelle's estimating that we'll end the fiscal year with a budget of just over $15.5 million. That's 9% higher than the adopted budget amount, but that's primarily due to the $776,000 loan that we received for the purchase of the fire truck and police vehicles. So that's over half of the 9% increase based on that loan proceeds. The rest is from greater sales tax revenue, a little bit greater than estimated property tax collection, permitting revenue, and just some miscellaneous revenue, most of which is due to strong economy up to the last month. So you'll see that budget amendment coming up at your workshop in June. So the proposed general fund budget is roughly the same as it was when I presented this to you last month. The only difference is $10,000 less anticipated in occupancy tax and therefore contribution to the tourism authority. And that's based on information from the Hampton Inn they're operating at about 30% capacity right now. And so we had budgeted $105,000 this year. That's down to $70,000 next year, just because business travel is going to continue to decline in this new environment as people are doing video conferencing instead of in-person meetings. That's really going to hurt the business travel at the Hampton and what we anticipate the Hilton Home to Suites to do. So we're going to be very conservative with our occupancy tax next year and do that at 70,000 instead of the 80,000 that I had anticipated last month. So this overall is it's a 3% increase from the adopted budget this year, but actually I just went over the proposed budget amendments. This is overall a 6% decrease, 6% cut in the overall amount that we think we're going to end the year this year. So, you know, as we're doing right now, the budget process is a projection and an estimate of what we think is going to happen in the upcoming year. The year-end amended budget is a synopsis of what we actually did. So this is just our best guess. So we think that this proposed budget will be 6% less than what we'll end up ending this year with. Again, I've gone over that we've been consulting with our colleagues around the region, but also with organizations that study this on a statewide level for how the COVID is going to affect our revenues. We feel like this is a conservative approach, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be better off economically in the fall, and people will spend money again, and we can revise this budget upward if the council wants to. But I just want to make sure that we cover all of our expenses on the front end. We will defer some of the capital projects and capital purchases until we get enough data in the new year to know which way our revenues are going. None of this has changed since the first workshop. Again, ad valorem taxes or property taxes make up 60% of the general fund revenue. And sales taxes are number 2 at 18%. It's a mix after that. Here's the chart that I shared last time about our property tax collected over the last 14 years. And you see we've had some slight bumps in previous revals, a decent bump last time. Here's a chart that just shows that we have been pretty good at estimating how much sales tax we've collected the last several years. We're coming in just right over what we estimated, except for this year. This year, we underestimated just how strong the economy was and how much people were actually spending money. And there was a change in internet sales that are now taxable. Previously were not. So we'll have a really good year with sales tax this year, but I've already explained that that's probably not going to continue next year. Here's a chart just showing how Belmont has kind of tracked with the state over the last 10 years in terms of the sales tax. So we generally either meet or outperform the state. And the expenditure side, none of this has changed other than $10,000 less coming out of the finance department or administration department, and that's where we house the tourism authority's money. So same percentages of the budget for each department. Again, here's the functional areas. None of this has changed. No change on the personnel costs and what we're looking at for personnel for last month. I know we haven't had the full CIP workshop yet, but here's what we have in this year's budget, and I add another year. So here's some the projects that right now I'm looking at, but overall, the main thing with capital, I'll go back to here. Capital is in yellow, so I'm estimating that a total of $1.9 million in capital, and we'll have a CIP workshop, and you can give me better direction on what projects are important to the city council on how to spend that $1.9 million. On the utility fund, nothing has changed from last month. This is It's a decrease from the current budget. That's because I'm estimating we'll take out less capital reserve money for projects than we did this year. That's totally dependent on our ability to get some projects done. A lot of these projects are complicated and there's a long lead time. The big project next year is going to be the South Belmont elevated water tank. So we'll work on that, but we still have our CIP projects with utility fund. We are currently in a period where the governor says we cannot charge late fees or disconnection fees. I believe that ends at the end of May. So I don't know if that's going to be extended. There was a call, I think, today about that, but I wasn't able to get on that. So we'll get more information to see if that's going to be extended or not. But hopefully people are continuing to pay their water bills. Even if they pay it late, at least they're paying it. Here are the major components of the revenue for the utility fund. And again, it's based, as always, based on selling water and treating it, treating the wastewater. And then we built up the capital reserve, so we want to use that to help improve our infrastructure. Here's the expenditures. You can see capital expenditures make up 25% of the budgeted expenditures for water and sewer. So, you know, we have been investing heavily in our utility system. We sort of challenged Chuck and Jerry to get these projects done and to spend money as is needed. So we have been in a good position. This budget keeps that in a good position. The utility fund CIP list is here, and again, we'll have a workshop to go over those projects. Stormwater, nothing has changed here from last month. We did have a stormwater CIP budget. Excuse me, stormwater CIP meeting, so I'll update that chart. But not recommending an increase in the stormwater fee at $5. See, those are the components of stormwater. So overall, not much has changed in the budget. We do have, let's say, the one more data point of revenue for March that we didn't have last time, and that continued to be good. I'm nervous about April's sales tax revenue and what's going to happen in May. It seems like people are out spending money, but they're just spending it in certain places. So we'll see what happens with all of that. But I feel like this, I mean, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be tight. There's lots of cuts to various line items. What we had this year, I can say overall, I'm estimating that we'll spend 6% less than what we spent. Hopefully it won't be as bad as what I'm envisioning, but I think this does continue the plans and the vision that the city council has adopted, and it does invest in some sidewalks and greenways and our recreation facilities, primarily the recreation center that will be on track to start construction in the next fiscal year. It does invest in our utility and stormwater infrastructure. So it doesn't invest as heavily as what we like, but it does continue those investments. So the next steps on the budget, take input from you tonight. And then we'd like to schedule the public hearing on the budget for June 1st. I think that based on our gathering restrictions, we still would have June 1st as a WebEx city council meeting. So the hearing I will provide that over WebEx, and then we will take public comments on the budget. I would read those out or have somebody else read those out if I'm doing a lot of talking that night. And then another part of the change in the general statute on these remote meetings during an emergency is now when you hold a public hearing, you cannot then take action on what the hearing was about at that same night. You have to wait 24 hours after the hearing is over to receive additional public comments, and then you can vote on the item. So for June 1st, you'd have a public hearing on the budget. We would recess that meeting, receive any additional public comments for the next 24 hours. Then I would ask that we reconvene the recess meeting on June the 3rd, say 4 o'clock. We'll be able to read out any additional comments that we receive on the budget. and then ask you to vote on the budget on June 3rd. We'll have a separate public hearing on the street closure in Belmont, and that'll follow that same process. But we will certainly be monitoring our finances the next year and really providing that oversight on, and that's another reason it's going to be nice having the deputy finance director position if we approve that in the budget, because we really are going to need to watch everything. And then when we see that we're satisfied that we can afford to make these capital purchases, then we will do that. But in the past, we have tried to get those capital purchases out in the summer and the fall, so that people see what their taxes are paying for before they get a tax bill. We probably won't have that luxury this year, just because I'm hesitant to spend a lot of money if we're not going to get that money coming in the fall. So with that, I will open it up to any questions or comments on the proposed budget.
Hey, Adrian, what did you guys put in for pay raises this year, and how does that compare to the county and other municipalities?
So we are recommending a 1% cost of living adjustment in July. That's less than what we've done the last several years. And then a potential of a 2% merit increase based on job performance. So somebody could get a total of a 3% salary increase. I haven't seen all the municipalities within Gaston County, but a lot of the feedback that I've seen on the statewide city manager listserv have anywhere from about a 2 to 3% salary increase. Now, some of the really small rural towns that are hit really hard are doing no increases, but the ones that are doing about a 2 to 3%. So I would certainly like to do more. We've been doing, I think, a 2% cost of living and a 3% merit potential the last couple of years, so that we remain competitive with our market, but money's just not there.
What is the total cost of the pay raise?
I could get you that information.
Okay.
It's included in the budget, but I could break that down to see what that would be.
Yeah, I was just thinking about maybe putting a cap on the 2% merit potential on a dollar amount. If that makes sense.
That's not what I'm proposing, but if that's what the council wants to do.
But how do we approve a 2% merit when we don't know how much money that's going to cost?
I can provide you, I've got it in a different spreadsheet, and I can send that to you to show what it would cost for the cost of living and the merit. And I don't know if Michelle has that handy or not.
I mean, do you already know who's getting the 2% merit?
No, because those performance evaluations have not been done. Remember when we started doing the merit raises, there was concern from some council members a couple years ago that we would just give everybody, at that point we're doing up to 3%, we just give everybody a 3% raise. And what the data showed was that was not the case. Most people got 2%. You got nothing. And several did get 3%, but it's all based on the department head or supervisor's evaluation of what staff is doing.
Okay. So
I mean, theoretically, we'd have at least an outer range.
yeah, so we would have a max. We'd have a max number.
Right. So what is in the budget? I'm recommending is basically 103% of what the staff salaries would be. That's 100% of what they're making now, plus a potential of 3% for everybody. And since not everybody gets the full 3%, we won't spend that. So there'll be a little bit of lag in there. And that's been consistent in the last several years.
Are there any other questions?
No.
I don't have any questions, but I'd say I think it's wise to defer any capital purchases until we know what the fall and the winter will bring us.
Thank you.
I guess I have a question. Well, I have a couple. Based on your last update, how confident are you about the Powell bill funds and whether that might be reduced?
So I was fairly confident until I saw the email from the League of Municipalities that DOT's financial crisis may have them looking at pushing some of their or reducing their own maintenance, and then I guess potentially asking the local governments to make up for that, or to withhold some of the Powell bill. Now that the Powell bill is in state budget, so it'd be up to the General Assembly to allocate that. But that's that is a concern. So if we don't get the Powell bill money as we're estimating, then we have a decision of whether to use just other general fund revenue for a paving program, or to defer a paving program until we hear more from the state. So we are planning on doing a paving program this summer, early fall. But that's predicated on us getting the $312,000 or whatever from the Powell bill. If we get half of that, then we probably just need to do a much smaller paving program. But we've done a really good job of paving, and I don't want us to fall behind. So that's obviously everybody rides around town and sees our streets.
When will we know if we're getting, well, how much we're getting from the Powell bill?
I don't know that answer. That's part of the state budget. So, of course, last year we didn't get a state budget, so it was just.
I was like, there was no budget, so
yeah,
I don't know.
So it was a continuation of the previous year. So there's a formula in the statute that Powell bill is based on a certain percentage per capita and a certain amount of money per capita, a certain amount of money per mile of street, a qualifying street. So the General Assembly would have to change that amount of money per capita or money per mile. And I haven't heard that they're going to do that, other than what the League of Municipalities set out late last week.
Adrian, do you have any idea when they'll put a finer point on that so we can make some decisions, or is it just fluid?
It's fluid. I would encourage you to contact our legislative delegation and let them know how important Powell money is to us.
Would it be worth possibly adopting a formal resolution to that end and making that available to our elected representatives?
Absolutely, and I can have that ready for you at your June 1st meeting.
It's a good idea, Mark.
Yeah, and we've got some agreements with DOT that we do a little bit more of their street or their mowing maintenance in exchange for some other things they provide, primarily with storm cleanup. But one of my fears is that the DOT will pull back its mowing, and that's just going to be a nightmare for us, because we're going to get the complaints, because you're going to see tall grass on Wilkinson and Park Street and South Point Road and New Oak Road, and they're going to call us. And then we have to say, well, you need to call DOT, and DOT's not going to do anything about it if they don't have the money to do it. So if that's the case, then we'll have to decide if we're going to supplement those state services or not. To Ryan's earlier point on the Alfresco, we want our town to look a certain way, and having 2 and 3 foot tall grass on the side of the road is not our standard. And so there may be some additional mowing we have to do. But I would certainly put in our resolution that we support continued Powell bill funding at the current levels, as well as the state continuing its maintenance responsibilities.
I think that's a good idea to put that resolution together, but I think it's a good idea for us all to follow up with a phone call, whoever might be so inclined.
Yes, I think so too, considering I said if you run a business, you need a budget, and that we have existed a year without one is quite unusual. So that's not impressive to a lot of people, not just myself. So.
We can get that ready for you. But I do agree with Councilman Turner. It's always good to follow that up with a phone call to the delegation.
All right, sounds good. Everybody on the same page?
Are you ready for me to advertise for this public hearing on June 1st and then recess and have a consideration of the budget on June 3rd?
Yes.
Yep.
You have
Yes.
you put together an infographic for prior to that as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one that was done last year I thought was pretty well done. I liked it.
Thank you. Campbell put that together, so I will not take any credit for it.
All right.
That's all that I have for the budget hearing, so I will stop sharing this presentation.
If there's nothing else, would it be appropriate to entertain a motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So we adjourn?
Martha's moved to adjourn, second.
Ryan.
Ryan seconds. I would assume do we need a roll call to adjourn, or can we just all?
You need a roll call. We want to be consistent with the statute.
All right. Councilman Trifton, are you in favor of adjourning?
Yes, I am.
Councilman Turner, are you in favor of adjourning?
I am.
I, Councilman Heffernan, am in favor of adjourning. Councilman Stowe, are you in
Yes.
favor of adjourning? Yes. Councilman Seelinger, are you in favor of adjourning?
Yes.
5-0 in favor of adjourning. We stand adjourned until our regular meeting on June 1st.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Wash your hands.